So welcome everybody to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. Today is Friday, April the 29th, 2022, and their call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And while we're waiting on Michael to get dialed in, I'll just say that I did send out the newsletter today. So look in your mailbox, and it's hopefully gives you some more information of what all's going on. It's titled, "Now is the Time to Be Transformed. Get involved, be the change you wish to see." So look for that in your email. And if you're not on their mailing list, you can go to our website, scroll to the bottom, and click to sign in to be on their mailing list. Give us your information, and you'll get all of the news from us that way. You can also go to our website and click up in the titles, up in the menu bar, multimedia, and then go down to news and newsletters. And you can pick up all of the newsletters that we have sent out since we started doing this electronically. I invite you to do that. And again, the app is approved and up and running, the update in Google for your Android, so Google Play Store. It's still not up on the iOS, the iPhone, and still hold the guy in your hearts that he will get to feeling better. I haven't heard from him in a couple of days, so I've written to him to see how he's feeling. So that's kind of holding up getting the update on the iPhone. But that'll be coming hopefully in a couple of days. And just, look at the newsletter, look at all the things that are going on. Some of it is, you've heard us announce it before, and that is that Michael will be facilitating the Global Book Club on the 2nd and the 4th Thursday from here on out until they get complete. And as she sends us the recordings of those, we will put them on our website so you can pick up the ones that you've missed. There's also the MindShifters and StillPoint Breathing monthly, and the next time we do that is going to be on May the 14th. So those are coming up. If you want to participate in that, drop me a line at Jeanie, JEANIE, @yagain.org. Give me your name and phone number, and we'll get back to you and get you registered. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear Heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here. And we get to move forward this conversation another level in this arena of understanding how this mind-body unit interaction operates, who we really are in its operation, and some of the tools for bringing everything up to optimum level of functioning. Of course, the starting question in that context is, who are we? And if you've ever held a newborn child, then and ever tapped into the essence of that newborn, then you know what the presence of love is, although it's pretty much indefinable as far as the words go. And if you've ever believed that you're something other than that active presence of love, then these tools are for you. And the tools are about removing what does not belong within the structure as human beings and being restored to the truth of who we are, the pure presence of active love. So that's the core of where we want to head with this work. And we have, in terms of resources, Jeannie's been talking about them a little. If you go to our website, there are over 20,000 pages on the website, and you can spend months acquiring and refining your skills at using the tools that we've developed over the last half century. You can, of course, download the app and do your forgiveness work right there on the app itself. Several of the tools are available through the app now as it's developed over the last couple of years. Awesome work, Jeannie. And you can also do the work right on the website. You can actually tap in on the website and do a worksheet right there live. and or, of course, on your phone. You can print the worksheets off and put them to work in your own home. And so if you come up with questions, the purpose of the show is to support you in understanding how that tool of forgiveness works in particular, and the corollary tools that we've developed that are built around the forgiveness process. A moment of silence, thinking about someone that I spoke with this morning who's moving through some trauma, and to recognize that the engagement in trauma is a habit that can be broken. You know, if one has had a traumatic experience and does not understand how to free themselves of that, the core tool that we have to offer is that tool of forgiveness. And when we recognize that our culture tells us that forgiveness is something that it's not, our culture tells us, oh, you know, you did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, but it's okay, I'll let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me. You're now talking about a Greek idea of pardoning, and when the definition of forgiveness was changed to pardoning, basically forgiveness was removed from the culture, and it's been gone for a long, long time. And what we're looking to do is to restore it in its entirety to full function and make it available to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And so we have many, many different types of support available, and where my mind wants to go is to this quiet space. I had a couple of days where that's been going on. So we're here for a conversation. And with this quiet space, I don't have much else to say at this point. And I'd really like to just open the door to conversation. How can we support you? Give us a direction that you'd like to see the show go today. Our call-in number, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, is 563-999-3581. If you dial that number, you're listening to the show. And then if you push 1, that raises a hand in the control panel. And Jeannie will know that you want to talk to us, and she'll introduce you by your area code. So do we have anything happening in the control panel, Jeannie, or anybody in the chat room with a thought for us?
It is all quiet. I just thought about sharing. I put this on Facebook, but the other day when Aria had told us that there was a new color and that it was called indigo, well, I had learned yesterday that the color indigo is actually for the third eye chakra. And then we were playing picnic food, and I asked her for the dragon fruit. And she said, well, that's for your tummy. And I looked at her and I looked at Michael, and then I Googled it. And sure enough, in Google it says, specifically, dragon fruit encourages the growth of the probiotics in your gut, and these helpful bacteria and other helpful bacteria can kill disease-causing viruses and bacteria. They also help digest food, and it strengthens your immune system. It's like just amazing the knowledge that she's got that she's just coming out with on her own without, it's not something that she learned from us, and she's just popping out with it. And she told me that today when she came. Yeah. She said she was going to, I asked her, I said, you're so smart. I said, how did you learn so much? And she says, well, tomorrow when I come, we're going to play teacher, and I'm going to teach you all that I know. But I've asked her already this morning, I said, are you ready to play teacher and teach me what you know? And she says, no, not yet. So I guess when she's ready. But it's, we all have the ability to tap into every bit of knowledge. I mean, everything that we need to know, every question we ask, the answer is there. It's just half the time we are trying to listen with our ears instead of listening to that inner voice. And, we need to tap in and listen to that intuition. And we did just have a hand go up.
Sweet.
All right.
Let's say hello.
Susan, 610. You're on the air.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Welcome, young lady.
Hi, thanks. Jeannie, how's your dad? I do have stuff, but I wanted to find out how your dad's doing.
Well, I spoke to a physical therapist this morning. The way that it had been working is that he has bed sores, and so the place he's staying doesn't do wound care. And so as long as he needs a nurse to come look at the wound, then this outside company called Emeticis is the ones that have to come in. And since they're in looking at his wound, they also are the ones that do his physical therapy and all of that. And the other day, they had kind of led me to believe that, he wasn't improving, and when they run them for so long, and then if they're improving, they'll extend it for another, 90 days or something. And that it didn't look like he was improving, so more than likely they would release him when his time was up. Well, another physical therapist called me this morning, and she actually got certified. She works for the American house where Dad's staying, but because she's certified to do the in-home care stuff, they've now incorporated her to work with Dad. And so I was telling her, just some of the history and everything, and she sounds like, if they're still going to work towards getting him to stand and things like that. But I said, if he's never going to walk again, at least I would like to see him be able to get around in the wheelchair on his own instead of just sitting there. And so they're going to, hopefully that gives them a new goal to work towards, and so they'll extend his physical therapy time. And so they're going to work with him on learning how to push himself around in the wheelchair and stuff like that. So it's a little bit optimistic that perhaps, he'll at least still be in physical therapy for a little bit longer. So I hope.
Yeah.
And some days we go and he's like all there and talks to us and he's just right with it. And then the next day we go and he's like a zombie sitting there. You can talk to him and then he'll look up at you like he just realized you were talking, and he'll go, huh? So I've learned you have to actually get his attention. I have to say, hey, Dad. And then once he looks at me, then say whatever it is I was going to say, because if I just start talking, then it just like slides over him or something.
Do you ever wonder where he goes?
I've asked him that. I'm like, what are you thinking? Where did your mind just go? And he just looks at me like, I don't know.
Oh, geez.
It's a way of checking out, I think.
It's difficult to get him to communicate. Yeah.
Say that again, both of you. I missed them.
I said it's a way of checking out.
When Janie's mom passed, he started to just mentally fade into the distance and physically deteriorate.
Wow.
I think maybe he kind of gave up.
Right.
And so, sending love and support in his direction is appreciated, and thank you for thinking about him.
Yeah, I've been wondering how the coconut's working, and of course he's dealing with so much, and maybe it's helping, but he's still dealing with a lot. So
physiologically now is the next level. Pretty much, he seems to be back in terms of conversation. When we talk about things, for a time period, he remembered nothing. He knew us, but that was about the extent of it. And now, cognition's pretty much there. We talk about something, and he speaks of it, with pretty good remembrance and such. So there's been a shift in that direction. The next challenge is trying to get him on his feet. Yesterday over there, I talked to him about, Dad, how are you liking it here? And, do you really want to come home? Are you working toward getting up and around on your feet
Yeah.
so that you can get home. And he said, I'm working on it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
But then the next sentence.
Everything okay over there?
we lost your voice, Jeannie. Whoa, your voice has been replaced by a beep. Are you there, Jeannie? Are you there, Susan?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you loud and clear.
Whoa.
Whoa. Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Strange. Well, we seem to have lost Jeannie. Maybe she's lost her connection. She's dialing back in.
Yeah.
We'll give her a second to...
Yeah. A little silence is nice, as you said.
Well... Strange. Technology is so great when it works.
I know.
Well, let's head off in the direction of the conversation that you were thinking about in terms of where you're at and what's happening in your world.
Well, in my outer world, my son has COVID, and he thinks he got it. He
Ouch.
had shots, but he, being a doctor, he had been exposed many times because they were just constantly dealing with patients, and he didn't get it all that time. But he thinks he got it from his son. His son came home from school with a hacking cough and feeling tired and having a fever. And 2 days later, his son says, well, I'm better enough to go to school. And they never tested him. They never even thought about that. But then Jonathan came down with similar symptoms. And I had these tests at home because on Medicare, they actually give you free tests. I don't know if you know that, if you're over, I think, 65. And I had a couple of boxes of tests, and I said, why don't you just take the little test? And it came out positive, very obviously positive. And he said, oh, my gosh. And so he's been very tired and has a cough, but he's up and around, and it's been 4 days, and he's thinking of going back to work soon because they've shortened the quarantine time to 5 days for a doctor as long as he comes back with masks and is taking all kinds of precautions. He's not sure he has the steam to do it yet, but he could do it according to the rules. But it's just very interesting how the landscape of COVID is changing all the time. So
I think the pressure of business is monumental on how these regulations are put forward, the pressure to keep things going and buoy up the financial system, I think, is enormous.
Well, I don't understand that from, you mean he's just aware of the fact that he feels he's got a position there where he's always taking care of people and they need him. I suppose in the end it's a money thing, but he wasn't thinking about that. He was just thinking about how he wanted to get back to what he does. He actually loves it, which is miraculous. But he was very tired. He's often very tired at the end of the day. Yeah. So, yeah, the whole financial thing, I wasn't thinking about that, but it may be true. Are you saying that if they weren't so concerned about money, they might do things differently, and how would that look?
Yeah, I think when they get down to 5 days and you're okay to go back to work, I think it's the result of financial pressure. When it was in the 10-day range, it cost employers a lot of money, and so I think there's been a lot of pressure to reduce the times, and I'm not sure it's wisdom, but
Yeah. Well, maybe they've simply found that after 5 days they're not contagious, and if the person who had a mild case feels well enough to go back, they're changing that because of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't have any idea of knowing.
That's what's going on.
I hope. Yeah. So, how's it doing with Jeannie? Is she back?
I don't know. Jeannie, are you with us
Yes,
today?
I am.
Oh, there
it
you
was
are.
really weird because it was showing I was still connected, but I couldn't hear you all. And so I hung up,
Wow.
and it took me about 3 times to get dialed in before it actually connected. So, but I'm back.
It was strange. It came up with a loud ringing noise as well.
Beep. Yeah. Well, okay, I'll launch. I even wondered if I should call in. I've been doing, it's a whole different ballgame here. I feel as if my sleep has been changed. I had a totally weird dream again on waking and went walking and did wall to wall, back to back, tail to tail worksheets. One led to another, to another, to another. They're all hydras. They're all hydras. Every one of them is a hydra.
Awesome.
I guess so. It's global, though. It goes into every part of my life, including my work with you and Tim Hayes, and everything is coming up for scrutiny, and I'm watching how things are. And one of the issues is the difficulty I have with StillPoint breathing, and I've been practicing StillPoint breathing at night in bed. And one just technical question is, can you do StillPoint with your mouth shut? You know, this is my big issue with StillPoint. Is it effective?
Well, the connected breath is going to shift energy, whether you do it through your mouth or through your nose. The reason why I encourage people and why the StillPoint is focused on a relaxed jaw and an open mouth is, one, a lot of times that jaw is a way of holding on to things, a way of locking down energy. It's a way of reducing energy flow through the whole body. The TMJ, temporomandibular joint, there in the jaw, about a third of the innervation of the whole body goes through that joint, and most people cannot close their mouths without opening that joint, without interrupting the energy flow there. And so my take is that it's oftentimes a way of just, wait a minute, I don't want to be too vitalized and have to look at everything. And so allowing that to happen and building vitality. And also, when you're breathing through your nose, there are, the purpose of the sinus cavities and such in part is there are openings through which oxygen moves and oxygenates the brain, supplies the brain with energy. And when you go to breathing through your mouth, you don't have that much stimulation going to the brain. And so it makes it a little easier to be, as you heard me say many times, to be out of your mind. To let the mind go instead of being intellectually focused, to just let that soften, let that go, and just be in the energy that's moving inside of you. One of the thoughts instantly as you start to talk about this flow process that you've entered into, and you heard me speak of this before, you reminded me of the time when I was in India doing a 3-day fast where I wore a blindfold and I wore earplugs. I was in silence, and there came a point in that process where it was just like my mind opened up like a volcano. It was just like a mind vomit. It was just like things just started to spew out of my mind. And maybe you're reaching a point where you've kind of pulled that veil back enough that, okay, it's time to hit a new level of just stepping into process and letting things move. So that's awesome if that's what's happening.
Well, it's amazing to me that you subjected yourself to that extreme of an outward situation so that you could find out what you wanted to find out or do. I mean, I can't imagine going to a place and blindfolding and removing all stimulation. And how long were you doing that, did you say?
I did that for the whole process that I did was called Kaya Kalpa. It's a 40-day process. And we actually engaged for about 20 days of the process. And I did 3 days of that just because I was guided to it, just because my intuition said, get quiet, get into a deeper place of stillness. And so that's why I did the blindfold and the earplugs and fasted. I actually did
and that
water.
Was your idea?
I did that, yeah. That was not necessarily part of the Kaya Kalpa process, but it was just something that I intuitively felt was appropriate, and it was. It's a powerful time.
You've got guts, Michael. Yeah.
No, I think it's just willingness. It's just willingness. And it sounds like you're moving forward in your willingness.
Well, in a way, yes, but I'm watching. What I'm seeing is my unwillingness.
Well, that's, if you can process through that. Another thing,
Yep.
I mean, another way of doing this, and actually there's a center that I used to speak in Birmingham, and they had a float tank, a sensory deprivation tank. And usually you go into a sensory deprivation tank for an hour or so, and again, you're in blackness. There's usually music playing, and you're in very high level of Epsom salts in the water, so you float with zero effort. I mean, you just lose track of your body. And when I went there, they would just give me the key to the float tank, and when I finished a workshop, I'd finish my workshop at 10 or 10:30 in the evening, be finished with that. And I'd go get in the float tank and I'd sleep there. I'd go right into the tank for the night and be in that sensory deprivation place. And that was another really sweet experience of just letting things open and breathe and, be with whatever moves. And, when you realize that, one of the things, Dr. Tim likes to say is there's no such thing as bad self-knowledge. And so to me, those things and getting into that 5 worksheets a day, getting into the flow of the worksheets, is just a way to start to access things that otherwise we don't allow ourselves to be in. But the thing is that those things that we don't allow ourselves to be with or be in touch with, they still impact us. They just do so unconsciously.
Yeah, they do.
And that's where things like pain and trauma and disease and suffering come from. And the willingness to be in the space of processing it, accessing it, moving through it, it's like letting go of a burden, letting go of a load. So to me, it wasn't a matter of courage to do it. It was just like, oh, I can do this and assist the process. All right, I'm going for it.
I had a friend older than I was. He was kind of a mentor to my son, taught him chess after school, a crazy, odd man who I began to really appreciate. And he told me once, all on his own, he'd never been in therapy, but he did something like what you did. He went for 3 days into a dark room, and he said, I am going to need to eat occasionally, but I want it to be just like a broth or something. Bring it once a day. He set it up so that he would have absolutely no sound. He couldn't hear anything. And for 3 days, he was in this dark place, and he went through his whole life and did his own kind of psychotherapy thing. He went through all the things that were traumatic for him as a child, and he hadn't planned on what they would be. He found himself going through cathartic crying, talking to himself, processing. And he finally came out and he just said that he had learned a tremendous amount and it helped him grow. But he did it. I think what I'm saying to you, Michael, is I'm amazed that you had not only the willingness, but that it occurred to you to do that. that you decided that could be done and you could do that, that's just off the beaten track. And I was amazed by this man, too, for the same reason. Just
well,
to
if you
sort
go
of
back,
create his... Yeah.
You go back and listen to this master teacher of the process, and he said, go apart. Take time in silence. Go into the closet and close the darn door.
Yeah.
So he gave us some pretty clear instruction.
It's true, but to take it to that extent, it's just wonderful. I just think it's great. Yeah. Okay.
So should we lock the closet door for a few days then?
No thanks. I mean, I'd rather do it in smaller increments. And this was my overall thought, besides the fact that no matter what I'm working on, it comes back to being told in so many ways, like I'm a liar, I'm a cheat, I'm bad, and I bet many people have this, but on the other hand, it boils down to an initial sort of, it isn't even my mother, it's like the way kids were being brought up at the time, partially that and partially individual. I mean, I do wonder now how my grandfather, my mother's father, brought her up and what he did to her to teach her that hitting your kids was okay. And for him to be so dark and accusing and like almost demonically disapproving and angry at a young child. I've gone through that scene with my grandfather and talked to him. I do feel, you said I'd feel I was making it up. I do feel as if I'm making it up. What he says to me, I get the feeling that he hasn't done his work yet. That's the feeling I get, is he isn't ready to talk to me the way Magda's grandfather was ready to talk to her, or maybe I'm not interested in hearing the tenderness that her grandfather showed toward her. Whatever that is, that's on the table right now. It's just being looked at, among a million other things. But like the StillPoint breathing, I felt as if I was doing it wrong. I couldn't do it right. I was being watched. It was too big for me to handle, especially on Zoom. I think in person, I went into it in that retreat, and I understand how close you are physically to people when you are doing it in person, and somehow your energy of acceptance or the group's energy of well-being or something allowed me to do that more than I'm able to do it by myself at home being watched. I'm doing it by myself, I think. And I have another question about the jaw, and before I forget it, it'll just be when I'm lying in bed, I'm not clenching my jaw, I'm just relaxed. My natural position is with my mouth closed softly, So I don't think I'm clenching my jaw, but it sort of creeps me out to think that I might be resisting to that point and using my mouth to do that. Whatever. I'm going in 5 directions again, Michael, so sorry about that.
Well, here's my thought, and that is it sounds like your mind's gotten into the game and you're back to that thing of, I have to figure this out. And my offering would be, my experience is when there's something that I think I have to figure out, and I realize it's impossible to figure out, what I'm going to do is just soften everything in me and breathe. And just let the breath handle it. Let that breath move through you. Again, that's Rukha in the creation story. It doesn't say the Creator sent out His Spirit, or pardon me, it doesn't say sent out His Spirit. It says sent out His breath. It's our direct link. And so that's the place to just let yourself be with the breath and observe your thoughts, breathe through your thoughts. And when you get that rhythm going, of the still point process, then those thoughts that are highly energized, that, at the most inopportune moments just pop up and take over, those ones will tend to weaken. Those ones will tend to have their ability to grip you shaved off, their strength shaved off to a point of weakness where, well, there might be a thought there, but it's just a thought. It's not something that roars up and takes me in and takes me over.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the difference. Believe me. Yeah. Well.
Good breath.
Thanks.
Feel the difference with that breath? Did you feel the shift of energy that just happened with that breath that just kind of spontaneously happened? It wasn't something you did. It happened.
That's the nicest thought, Jeannie. Jeannie just sent me a text.
Uh-huh. Jeannie, come on into the conversation, sweetie. Please.
Well, I mean it. I said I wished I could fly up and spend about 3 days with her and work with her on breathing. I feel that I could get her there with my hands on her. I said, but alas, time mostly, and then money keeps me here. But maybe one day. And sending love.
It's a wonderful thought. It's
when you go to Florida. When you go to Florida to take care of your grandson, are you flying?
Yeah.
Or driving? Flying. Yeah.
Flying.
Just had the thought, if you happen to be driving, you could maybe arrange to make a stop here.
That is so nice, and I haven't forgotten that you offered to come out of your nest wherever you were and drive over to where we were, which wasn't near enough, and there was too much going on when we were doing something, and I can't even remember what. Was that when we were? Yeah, that was when we were doing an intervention with Luke.
I think that's when you went to work with Luke. Yeah.
Yeah, and you offered to come over. I never forgot that. And Jeannie, you just made me realize all of my wish for my mother to touch us. Zeroes right in onto that. I can't do it by myself, and I feel as if I can't do it by myself, and I'm by myself on the Zoom because you're looking, but that distance is like my grandfather, that doorway, you're looking at me, and it's not going to be friendly. It's just, I'm not going to give you your love that you have. And maybe I can now. Maybe that's, now that thought came to me, it won't be so scary to be at a distance.
And of course, remember, dear heart, that there's nothing that is scary. There's fear inside that brings up that scariness. But that's an internal process that is changeable as you realize that it's inside of you and not coming from the outside. But as long as I'm thinking in terms of it is scary, then it has the control. When I realize I have fear coming up in me, I have the control. I can change it then.
That's good. I've been realizing that, but I didn't realize it in that quarter, so that's good. Yeah.
Something I've been processing lately, with Aria being here so much, is when I was a kid, and I just don't understand it. When I think about that with Aria, it's just like abhorrent. But I can remember being a kid, and many times the adults would have fun and take pleasure in scaring the kids. Just doing scary things. And it's like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
But instilling fear in the child's mind is, bizarre. And so maybe there are some worksheets to do around people who either inadvertently or purposely instilled fear. It sounds like your grandfather was one. It sounds like sometimes mom thought that was the way to be in control.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so specific worksheets around the thought disorders attached to that. If, I'm not safe, I'm going to be hurt, I'm going to be violated. And, the goal involved in those worksheets would be the desire to be cared for, to be safe, to be honored, to be cherished, to be taken care of.
Well, just layers and layers of thoughts. But anyway, this could go in 5 different directions.
Well, that's okay. Just take a breath and be with it. Sometimes, remember I said when I described what happened with me when I was in India, and I'm in that space, and all of a sudden, when you say 5 different things, I couldn't even count them. The only word I could use to describe it, it was like a volcano went off in my mind. 2 words describe it every time I think of it, and that was 25 years ago. One is volcano, and the other one is spew. My mind just spewed.
Wow.
It was almost like something I could see just spewing up out of my mind. All this crazy content. And so going in 5 different directions says that you're opening many things. And sometimes you just need to let the energy move as opposed to I have to grab every one of them. And that's, again, where the breath comes in. When, it's more than anybody could handle. For me, the breath is such a comfort and such a power. And when you get it rocking at that point where you move into still point, then things really move. And you've heard me describe it before, when I first discovered still point, is things in the mind move into high speed fast forward. And it's so fast that it's almost impossible to keep up with. And that's where you want to go with the still point, because doing it mentally is a long, slow process. It's a necessary opener, but ultimately the breath is, the super processor, is what will move things in that accelerated fashion. And we want to set the stage for that and the safety for that. Again, if you remember in the opening of each intensive, I start out with talking about why have we been hiding from ourselves? Because at the point where this energetic offense happened, it didn't feel safe to be with it. And so just shut it down. And so to keep moving forward in safety and having support to, and maybe a thought would be to just have Tim sit with you in a really loving, supportive, energetic space of caring and safety, and just let that breath just gently open and let your mind spew whenever it's ready to move. And you don't have to figure it out. When I think back to that event, actually when I first discovered still point and I realized this high-speed fast-forward thing was going on, and when I had that thing happening in India, it wasn't that I could get a hold of all of it and understand it or figure it out. It was just, okay, this is the process now. I'm just going to let it happen.
And you were by yourself?
Both occasions, yes. Yeah, actually, the way that I discovered still point was the fact that I had been doing some breath work with someone and normally would do it with support, and I just had some stuff up in my face, and I needed to breathe. There was nobody around to support me. And so I just went ahead and breathed on my own. And I came to a point where I realized, all of a sudden, my thought process was one of, I'm supposed to be breathing, but I'm not breathing, and it feels awesome. And in the background, I could hear this noise, almost like a tape recorder on high speed fast forward. I mean, this is like it happened yesterday. This is when I was back in Atlanta. That's 40 years ago when I first discovered the StillPoint process. And it was like it was yesterday. It's just that simple and that clear that, gee, I'm supposed to be breathing, but I'm not, and it feels wonderful. And I hear this noise, and when I kind of like turn my attention to this, what almost sounds like a tape recorder on high-speed fast-forward, I'm hearing, this is being released, this is being shifted to that, this is being shifted, this is being released, this is being, it's like, almost like running a computer program. And I kind of slowed it. It was like, slow this down. What the heck is going on here? And that's what was happening. I was shown that. It was like, okay, and I just went back to breathing and let it go. I went back a second time to, almost freaking out a little bit. Slow this down. What's going on? And I'm just watching, things being shifted and released. This is releasing. This is letting go. This is letting go. And once again went back to, okay, let it rip. Just breathe into it and let it go. And that's how StillPoint was born.
And those things that you were saying were readjusting. Were you aware of what they were? Were they, or you just felt shifts in your being?
No, in the moment. Now, I don't have a clue about the details at this point, but in the moment, it was specific issues from my life, specific issues of, and I can't even detail it. I would theorize at this moment with things that I had fear about, or had anger about, or shame about, or guilt about. I don't recall the specifics of it, but it was this is what's being shifted and changed. And that's where I really got the direct experience of what Rukha the Kudsha was. It actually wouldn't be until maybe 4 or 5 years later, maybe not quite that long, that I was introduced to the Aramaic idea of Rukha the Kudsha, she who undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. And that in the creation story, it's not spirit being sent out, it's breath. It's like, click, it all fell together. It all came together. In fact, Jeannie and I were speaking in a church in Miami about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and the minister of the church was doing a presentation, and I had just finished doing a series of workshops. We stayed over and did his Sunday service after I'd done a week of workshops, and he's up there talking away, and I had this visual of, oh my God, this is what church should look like. There should be space for everybody to be laying down and breathing right now. That's what needs to happen, this whole group of people stepping into process work. That would be his topic. Actually, his sermon was baptism. And it's like, there should be space in this baptism, quote unquote. And if you remember, what they said is Yeshua, if you listen, they talk about Baptist. Yeshua never took out a glass of water and poured it on anybody to baptize them. It's never talked about. What they talked about was he would baptize them in Rukha, in spirit, in breath.
Right.
And then when you put that together, from the practical aspect of it, what was baptism being spoken of? Oh, it was a way to wash away your sins, quote unquote, and remembering that in Aramaic, sin means an energy that's off the mark. So here they are, they're thinking, like you wash your hands, and so you put them in water, and that cleanses you. So they've got this symbolic thing. And he said, no, we're now going to do the real thing. We're going to step into what moves the energy that never belonged in you, sin, the energies that are off the mark, and clean them out of your field. And guess what? My Father, the Creator, sent out a power to help you do that, and it's your breath, the whole breath. That's still where StillPoint is. So it was like, kind of the juxtaposition of all of that led to the understanding of, oh, okay, now I've got it. That's what was being spoken about. That's the real baptism. And, you know, if you remember, I don't think anybody in the intensive you were at had the experience of burning, searing pain, but on occasion, when going into some really deep still point work, people will have literally such a burning sensation, you know, and I think of one young man in particular a couple of decades ago who was at HeartLand, and he'd been a football player, an athlete as a kid, and had just all kinds of injuries, ankles, knees, you know, all kinds of injuries. And he went into this intense, burning, searing pain. And what did they say Yeshua would do? He'd baptize them with fire, cleanse them, wash the structure out with fire. And where there are deep enough aberrant energies in the system, and the breath, the energy starts moving deeply enough, people will go into that intense, burning, searing pain. This young man came out the other side, and he was in his 40s, and, you know, he was feeling his age. He shared that, you know, I was feeling my age after all those football injuries, and he came out of that, and all of his injuries were healed, all of his pain, and, you know, the ankle, you know, sprain, the wrist, the neck, the whatever, I don't remember what all the parts were, but there were several things that he recited, and as he was breathing, this intense, burning, searing pain just went from one part of his body to another, to another, to another, and he was done with it when he finished.
Wow.
Now, you'd look at, in the East, they talk about Kundalini, and it's thought of as an energy that resides in the base of the spine and comes up the spine and, you know, does its thing, and it's an intense, burning, searing pain. Well, I think that in the East, they had a misinterpretation. What my experience is that when there's a lack of energy flow and there's a block, an energy that doesn't belong in tissue, and you get the energy moving on a deep enough level, it will literally kind of punch through or burn through those energetic blocks. Well, in the East, you know, it's a pretty macho culture and a whole lot of, you know, some pretty bizarre sexual stuff. And so where is the energy for people who are blocked sexually? Where's that energy going to show up? But in the base of the spine. And so it was misinterpreted as, oh, this is an energy that's in the base of the spine that comes up the spine. But really, they were people who had blocks in that part of their bodies, and that's where the intensity showed up. And from there, it goes, once you get into a space of willingness and tapping into that, then that energy will move anywhere in your body that there's an injury and clear out the injury or the energy that's off the mark. And the most, you know, just like with the worksheet process, people, I think, accidentally fall into forgiveness. Somehow they accidentally, without even realizing what they're doing, cancel a goal and go into process. And, wow, I got a healing. That's wonderful. But with Yeshua's forgiveness, it's the most consistent, persistent way I know that if applied, one will move through energies that don't belong. Well, breathing, the still point process, is the most consistent, persistent way I know to open and move those energetic patterns that are locked up wherever they're locked up in tissue, wherever the injury is. And I've seen people, you know, after they've come out of still point go, oh man, I could hardly stand that. That was like excruciatingly painful. But you know what? That back where I couldn't move before, my back's healed. I mean, I've heard that over and over and over again. And it gets pretty intense. So what do you need to step into intensity? Willingness. And the breath's the most reliable way to consistently, persistently dissolve the blocks that we have inherited genetically, had pushed or brainwashed into us culturally, or just somehow or other made up on our own, energetic thought disorders that block the system. And the breath is the most powerful way I know to cleanse it of whatever doesn't belong. And the willingness to let whatever needs to move is what's going to allow the process to accelerate. And And you sound like you're working up to the point where you're ready to do a doozy.
I know. I have to let go of that thought, though. It's going to be what it's going to be. I don't want to think there's a doozy up ahead. I don't want to think about that. But I've got a mind shifter in there. When you were talking about having Tim do it with me, the resistance to that is tremendous. I don't want anybody seeing this. I don't want to impose. I don't want to waste his time. I don't want to draw attention. I feel too vulnerable. It's huge. So it's a mind shifter. It's safe and healing for me to have Tim do StillPoint with me. And
Absolutely.
There's so much garbage ready to come out. Too embarrassing. You know, just how could I ask him to do that? And he's going to not like me. He's going to be finished with me if he sees this. I mean, I'm telling you, Michael, this is the volcano you were talking about.
So,
no way am I ready to do that with him. I might do it by myself. And the idea of Jeannie doing it, I could accept that, except the thought comes to me that Jeannie will be doing it to be nice, and she won't really want to, and she won't mean it, and it'll be hard for her and onerous. So there you go.
Not have sent you that
and whose thoughts disorders are
true.
they?
I know this is a work. This is a poster. I'm the poster child of thought disorders today.
It's called resistance. It's called resistance. So let's put the shoe on the other foot for a minute. Let's put the shoe on the other foot for a minute.
Okay.
You ready to put? Okay, let's put the shoe on. So let's imagine that there's this man in your life named Tim, and he has just all kinds of aberrant, bizarre, crazy, insane, off-the-wall energetic patterns inside of him.
Okay.
And he came to you and said, "Sweetheart, I realize I've got some work to do, and I wonder if you would be the space of active love and support me moving through this." Do you think that if you said yes to that and all kinds of crazy, bizarre things started to move and come out of him, spew out of his mind or his mouth, do you think you'd reject him, walk away from him, never want to see him again, blah, all be finished with him, all those things? I mean, is any of that rational?
No.
What would you do?
No. I would be there. I'd stay there. It wouldn't. It's not even relevant. I can feel that on that side, flipping it over like that.
So then, can you make that true about him with you? Can you at least let yourself imagine, maybe that's all a fantasy. Maybe I have this fantasy in my mind, and this may be the next level of worksheet that you do on Grandpa, of this vicious presence watching me is going to spew all over me. And maybe that's your next worksheet, to open that space of safety. Because knowing Tim and the way that, I've interacted with both of you, I can't imagine him being anything other than absolutely excited and delighted and cheering you on and cherishing you more deeply on the other side of it.
Yeah. I'm breathing, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, good. And the mind's got 1,000 stories, and you know what? If the stories aren't based in love, they're all a lie, and all they need to do is be forgiven. All they need to do is be released. I mean, they're all based in craziness.
Yeah, I'm becoming my mother. I'm becoming the power person against myself. I can see this.
Well, let me offer, and instead of doing that, which will tend to solidify, Jeannie, maybe you can mute the keyboards keep popping there. I would offer that rather than putting another thought disorder in and solidifying that, that you recognize, oh, so here comes some of the power person dynamics that I engaged in from Mom, and here's a space where I can now soften and breathe and let go of this stuff permanently, like be done with it for myself and open the space for her and whoever has sold it in her to be freed of it too.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to come up. But, when it comes up, treat it as an uninvited guest rather than a permanent fixture. Oh, here's another piece that I get to work through, that I'm ready to be done with.
Yeah, good.
Because none of that stuff's true about you. Is it in your mind? Yeah. Actually. Just like if you watched it, or her. It may have been the truth of what she did because she didn't know any better. She didn't have the tools to know what to do with it, but you do.
Yeah.
And as you open and free you from it, you open the space for her. And the show is going to cut us off in a minute or so. We'll just go till it completes. We won't play the outro. So breathing with you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, it's 2:00. Holy mackerel, how did that happen? Goodbye. Thank you.
Well, you have a blessed one, and we'll be holding the space.
Thanks.
All right. With you, take care. Bye-bye.